Alright guys, welcome back. My name is Francisco Medina and I will be talking about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript this time. My first presentation I did an introduction and history about HTML, CSS. So now I'll just go over HTML and CSS again, but just a little bit quicker, just a little review on what I described on the first presentation. And then we'll jump into some JavaScript, a little bit of the history, and little bit more about it, and some examples that will be the conclusion of it. Alright, so let's get started. So what is HTML? HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML elements are the building blocks of HTML pages. HTML elements are represented by tags. Browsers do not display the HTML tags but use them to render the content of the page. So the doc type declaration. The doc type declaration represents document type and helps browsers to display web pages correctly. It must only appear once at the top of the page. That is before any HTML tags. The doc type declaration is not case sensitive. Here's a little HTML page structure. You can see the head right here on top. You can see my cursor moving up there. The title for the page right there, the body, and that's what is going to be showing up on your browser. So now we're going to be talking about a little bit of CSS. That was a little intro to HTML. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS describes how HTML elements are to be displayed on screen. CSS saves a lot of work. It can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. External style sheets are stored in CSS files. So why use CSS? CSS is used to define styles for your web pages. The design, the layout, variations in displays for different devices, and screen sizes. So here's a little diagram of how CSS works. As you can see, it loads HTML along with the CSS separately, parse them, and then is mixed together, create a DOM tree, and then at the end, as you can see on the right side here, it gets displayed on your screen. That's pretty much how it works. I mean, it sounds easy, but probably not as easy as it looks like. Alright, so JavaScript. A little bit of history on JavaScript. So Netscape Communications realized that the web needed to become more dynamic. So this gentleman, Mark Anderson, the founder of the company, believed that HTML needed a glue language that was easy to use, but web designers and part-time programmers to assemble components such as images and plugins where the code could be written directly in the web page markup. So in 1995, the company recruited Brendan Eich. I'm hoping I'm saying his name properly, probably not. I apologize for that. With the goal of embedding the scheme programming language into Netscape Navigator. So Eich wrote a prototype in 10 days in May 1995. So this gentleman literally wrote this prototype in 10 days. That's pretty amazing. Smart gentleman. Although it was developed under the name Mocha, the language was officially called LiveScript when it first shipped in beta release of Netscape Navigator 2.0 in September 1995. But it was renamed JavaScript when it was deployed in the Netscape Navigator 2.0 Beta 3 in December. So what is JavaScript? JavaScript is a programming language used to make web pages interactive. It runs on your visitors' computers and doesn't require constant downloads from your website. JavaScript has nothing to do with Java. Just to let you know, I always thought that JavaScript and Java were kind of like brothers or whatever, family, but no, no relationship. JavaScript support is built right into all major web browsers, including Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Safari, all of them. Chrome, anything that you can think of. Also, JavaScript is pretty much the main language, but it also has jQuery. jQuery is a fast, small, feature-rich JavaScript library. It makes things like HTML document traversal and manipulation, event handling, animation, and Ajax much simpler with an easy to use API that works across a multitude of browsers with a combination of versatility and extensibility. jQuery has changed the way that millions of people write JavaScript. We can do pretty much all the same things in JavaScript, but jQuery makes it easier. That's the main goal of jQuery, I'll say. It's best to know JavaScript well, but know jQuery to help you out with common complex tasks. So in this video, I'm going to have an HTML, CSS example, and also some JavaScript, but it's mainly jQuery examples because it makes it a little bit easier to work on. And I have a line of pure JavaScript as well that I show you also little things that you can do with it. Alright guys, so here's my little example that I have for you. It's a form example. It's very simple, just to show you how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can work together. This one, as you can see, I mean, you can kind of see the whole screen here, but I'm gonna do a few things to manipulate our screen. For example, if I go to where my project is, which is right here, you can see my index.html. That's the HTML file. Then you also can see here my declaration. I'm going to highlight it here. You can see the doc type, HTML, blah, blah, blah line that I mentioned on the presentation. Here is my JavaScript file, and here's my CSS. Also, as you can see here, this is the link to my CSS style file, and then you can also see here these two lines. The first one downloads the library for jQuery, and then we also have my script or my link to my example.js file. So if I get rid of, let's say, this and this, 3 lines, see what happens to my website. It has no style, everything is plain because it has no reference to it. Then let's put the CSS line back, save it, and there you have it. Little color. As you can see, my form example is right there, is centered. Also, look at my JavaScript file here. This is how you usually start a document, by writing this function. Pretty much all of the assignments that I've worked on have this file to work on, and then outside this one I usually write my functions. Like in this case, you'll see here has my valid data, it's called, and I'll show you what is that for. Then as you can see here, this line right here grabs the name from the HTML tag, and if I do that focus, it makes it focus on that particular field. So in this case, if I go back to my index.html and comment those 2 lines out, you'll see here, if I refresh this, you can see now that my cursor focuses on the first name element on the text, so you can write there. Also, another one of the features that you can see here, if you want to make sure that everybody feels or enters something on your fields, text files, or stuff like that, you can just do this. For example, if I hit submit button, you can see there that it gives me an error. First name field was left empty, and that is because it goes to my JavaScript, which is right here. So this is my index file. We go input submit, as you can see here. My ID is submit button, which is that submit button that you saw. And then we go back to my JavaScript file, submit button, and then it says on click. So when you click on that, it's gonna come here and it's gonna go to valid data, which is this function right here, as you can see. Then I'm gonna get this alert. And then if this if statement, if first name, which is my ID for that text field, if it's left blank, it's gonna come in here. It's gonna add that add class error, which was that red rectangle that you saw, and then it's gonna add this message line that is on our HTML. First name field was left empty, and then it's gonna focus again, as you can see here, it's gonna focus again on that particular field. So that's what is going on. If I go back, refresh, it's right there, as you guys can see, and if I hit submit, goes back focus as it's supposed to be doing. If I go blur, if I get rid of it, or if I move to the next one, you're gonna see that everything is gonna disappear. Those are the functions that you have with JavaScript, which I think it's really cool. So many things that you can do with it, but this is just like a little introduction to it. This line makes it all disappear, like our error message and our red rectangle there as well. So on blur, remove the class error, which is a rectangle, and the message line is going to be a empty string, and that's why it disappears. So these are some of the things that you can do. Also, I wanted to show you, like I said, this is mainly jQuery, but here is a pure JavaScript call, which is this one right here. It's commented out. I'm going to go back, and I want to show you this form example, and you can just switch that by, for example, if I comment that out, by just using this, I get an element by its ID in my HTML, and then inner HTML, and I'm going to change my text here to I just wrote this. Save it. And if I refresh this, you're going to see I just wrote this. So there's so many helpful things that you can do with jQuery, JavaScript, and I found it fascinating, to be honest with you. I hope you have liked the video, and please leave me your comments over there, right, with your comments for this video, and I'll see you guys soon. And I also just want to show you my references really quick, which are going to be down here. There we go, guys. Those are my references. And thank you once again, and see you guys soon.